take this responsibility, accountability for the choices you made, in your life and with your womb? And that's probably like a huge question, but
Yeah. So no, but
give
it's
us.
yeah, no, it's a great question. So I'll just share my own experience, and maybe someone can relate to this, right? I know for me, I won't go into like well, I'll just give you a little bit. I was raised by a single mother, and I had my childhood trauma, I had my experiences, right? I think we all can say that we've had that in some way, shape, form, or fashion. And what I noticed in my life, this was my perspective on life. Um, I had been in a few relationships that didn't work out. And I started to notice a pattern in my relationships. I started to notice this trend. And at first, I was kind of justifying it to myself, like, oh, well, because I did that, I have to pay back my karma about this. I'm very candid about the fact that I had, in my teenage years, had abortions, and kind of, been through that situation. I also have two children that I had in my adolescence as well. So right now I have two 20-year-olds, then I have younger children as well. So there were a lot of situations and a lot of circumstances in my life that I carried a lot of shame and guilt around, okay? And so the thing that's so corrosive about shame and guilt is that it digs deeper and deeper and deeper into your perspective, and it really kind of influences your decision making. And so what I found over the years was that, hey, I'm continuing to see this pattern of, I don't want to, I don't want to sound like Kevin Samuels and not being able to keep a man, but I'll say not being able to choose the right man. Okay,
Mhm.
was more my thing. It was like I wanted the bad boy, the nice guy was too boring, that whole story of wanting to really be drawn to a guy who, let's be frank about what it is emotionally immature, is emotionally unavailable. Okay, and through my work with Queen Afua and just life in general, I started to understand that that was heavily influenced by my abandonment issues with my own father, and really looking for that male validation somewhere else, and really looking for that in unhealthy ways. And so that was really the underlying contributing factor to, kind of my relationship choices and my history. And so when I found myself in this situation again with, just having my fourth child, okay, as a single mother, and, really looking at this situation, looking at this person and being like, this is not what I want. This is not what I desire for myself. Now, like I said, I was raised by a very strong single mother, and I knew that role very well. I knew that role of let's get it done, let's figure it out, okay, we're going to be organized. Because let's be real, motherhood is like a project management certification. I don't care what anybody says, because you really have to manage so many different things, especially with multiple children. But there was a point in time, especially when I started steaming, where when I sat there and I looked at all of my relationship history and just kind of my life in general, I really had to get honest with myself and say, Megan, you are the common denominator.
Mhm.
It's not these other people that are the common denominator in these situations. You are the common denominator. You are the person that continues to make this choice to deal with this type of relationship dynamic. And for me, that really showed up as, like I mentioned, emotional unavailability, um, emotional immaturity, selfishness, just kind of, I mean, not to say there wasn't any love there. There definitely was love there,
Yeah.
but it wasn't healthy love, right? It was centered around, getting high and having fun and, having sex and going out to eat, and, the no judgment, okay, from about any of that thing, or whatever situation people are in. But at the end of the day, I think it's important to still be connected to yourself, and really in your heart of hearts is this making me happy truly? Is this what I truly want for myself? And one of the most important things where I had to take accountability, and this was deep for me, because I started studying the work of a lot of like Neville Goddard and Joe Dispenza and all of these other kind of self-development spiritual people. And it was like basically I had to really acknowledge and accept the fact that I was attracting emotionally unavailable people because I myself was emotionally unavailable. I was guarded.
About to ask you that. I was about to say, do you believe you attract
Yes,
hearts? Like I know we hear that a lot.
absolutely. 100%.
Oh, go continue.
100%. So Neville Goddard has a quote, and it is that everyone is you pushed out. Okay? So you can only experience yourself in this lifetime. Okay? And that's not to say that, you are like your abusive ex or you are just like your, whatever. It's not to say that you're exactly like that, but there is a part of you that shares an identity with that person, right? So, I again had to acknowledge I can be cold. I can be selfish. I can be, emotionally unavailable, emotionally immature. I had to really admit those things about myself and change those things about myself and really start to work on here because I think a lot of times, and what I didn't agree with about Kevin Samuel's perspective was that I felt like it was, okay, well, do this because you want a man and a husband. And it's like, no,
Right.
do this because it's going to make you a better person and it's going to give you a better quality of life, period. Because guess what? Some people don't want a husband. Some people don't want that for
Right.
themselves. It's not, I don't believe that it's every woman's destiny to be a wife and to have babies. Yes, it can be a biological kind of urge, but I don't think everybody really wants that. I mean, I know of plenty of women who are like, listen, I'm single. I don't want any children. I'm good. Like, I like traveling. I like living my best life. And so, but regardless of whatever your goal is, I think that it's so important to really acknowledge the fact that you are the creator of whatever it is that you're experiencing. The choices that you have made have led you to the situations that you're in right now. Okay, whether that's relationships, whether that's your job, whether that's your business, whether that's, the church you're going to, the people that you're hanging around, the drama that you have going on, all of those things required your participation. And so in order for you to get something different for your life and for your experience, you have to participate in something differently. And so that's where the accountability comes in. And I'll be honest, me personally, I never really felt like, oh, I can't wait to get married and settle down. I am into astrology too. So I'm a Sagittarius. Like, I am very independent. I'm very freedom loving. I like to be going and coming and doing what I want to do. I'm still like that, even married. But I had to really get real with myself and say, you know, do I desire to have a partner? Yeah, I really do. I do desire to have a partner. Of course, for me, that looks like a partner where there's a lot of freedom, where I can really be authentic, where I can still come and go and that not be a source of contention. And it's definitely something we're working on in our marriage, just like any marriage. And I don't want to make it sit here and sound like, oh, steaming, I just, changed my life and I have this happily ever after. It's still a regular marriage. It's still something that has to be worked on. It's still something that requires me to be present and mindful of myself. And that has not changed through my singleness and even in my marriage. I've still had to prioritize my self-love, my self-healing, my personal development. I've always had to maintain that because that is what makes a healthy relationship. A lot of people, I think, feel like, oh, well, once I have a husband, I'll be complete. You have to understand that you are complete now, because if you feel like once you have a husband, then you'll be complete, you are going to attract a mate who also feels incomplete. And that is most likely going to end up being a toxic marriage. And that is what you don't want, or a toxic relationship, or whatever you desire for yourself. Yes, God. So that is my answer to that.
Yeah, everything you said, I'm like, yes, spot on. Especially when it comes to, you mentioned something about abandonment issues, being younger, and noticing how that plays a role in the partners that you were choosing. I also love when you said accountability, because yeah, you always hear, I feel like people always hear, you attract who you are, right? Like, and it's hard to really accept that, because sometimes we've attracted some really ugly people, right? And I love that you said it's like a piece of them, maybe not the part that was abusive, or the part that was manipulating, or hurting you physically, but there's a part of that is within you as well.
Yes.
So
well, and so
I do.
Sorry, I want to expound on that just a little bit more.
Yeah.
Because I think that it's something that you hear in like the personal development kind of space, is that, oh, you attract what you are, but I want to break that down just a little bit more.
Please do.
Okay. Because what you mentioned about being abusive and manipulative, right? You absolutely are abusive and manipulated to yourself. You have to pay attention to the way that you treat yourself. You have to pay attention to that silent voice of how you speak to yourself, how you make yourself promises and then you break them, how you promise that, hey, I'm going to start doing this. I'm going to start eating better. I'm going to start going to the gym. I'm going to stop being late when I go places. These were the things that I had to really be like, Megan, you're not having integrity with your word. You're showing up, you're doing things. And so what I mean when I say you attract what you are is that you attract someone who treats you the way that you treat your own self. And so that requires a lot of mindfulness, a lot of awareness, I do be lying to myself, don't I? You might not even realize it, right? Because it was something that I really was like, oh, dang, I'd be lying. I'd be lying. Like me, Miss Truth, Miss always wants to be honest, Miss Principled Sag. Like, no, you be lying sometimes. You be saying you're going to do stuff. You be promising yourself that you're going to do this and that, and you're not doing it.
Promises.
And then you're attracting people who are not honest with you. And so that's what's meant by saying you attract who you are. It's not saying that you're that person outright, but you're that person. You have aspects of that internally. So if you get out a piece of paper and you write down and you go over the situations that you've been in that you really felt like you were betrayed, or, it was a bad situation, write down the traits of the people that you were interacting with. This is the list now that you have to look at as a mirror. And you need to find and be honest and really dig, okay, how am I like that? Where do I do that? Because again, it may not express itself in the same way. It may not come out in the same way, but trust me, it's there. Because if you weren't in alignment with it, you would have never attracted to it and had the experience of it. And so this is why it's so important to be so intentional about creating the life that you want. Because you have so much more control than you realize over what you experience, and it's really about boundaries. It's really about boundaries first and foremost within your own self. You know what? I have a boundary. I'm only available for things that have integrity, including my own self. I'm only available for telling myself things that are true. I'm only available for sticking to my word. I'm only available for committing to things that I actually want to do. I'm not going to overcommit. I'm not going to say yes and then at the last minute cancel or back out.
And people always tend to put themselves on the back burner. Then you end up in a relationship where people are putting you on the back burner. But that's kind of how you treat yourself. I totally resonate with that.
Yes.
I totally resonate with that. See, somebody had a question about Judith. I don't know if you can see the questions, but
I can see them.
Being attracted to someone that reminds you of your mother or father.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Hi, Judith. She's one of my longtime clients and supporters. I love her so much. And just a word, if you guys want to use the question little button at the bottom, that would be helpful, because then your question can stand out to us.
Right.
If you've attracted someone like your mother and father, it's because you have taken on the persona of your mother and or father. Because a lot of times what happens, well, not a lot of times, all the times what happens is our subconscious expectation and programming is really programmed between the ages of 0 and 7 years old. And so the beliefs that you had, these were kind of like given to you by someone else, right? And so what happens is you then take on that same program and you move that same way. This is why steaming and personal development are so important, because you have to really say, wow, I'm noticing this about myself. I'm noticing this about, wow, my mom was like that. Wow, my dad was like that. But you have the choice to say, I'm not going to be that person anymore. Yes, it was programmed into me. Yes, it was my experience. Yes, that was my reality. But you know what? Right now, as an adult, I get to choose. Your trauma may not be your fault, but it is always your responsibility to heal it and to transmute it. And the more time you spend not doing that and making excuses for, being the victim and, oh, but my mom and dad, there is no grown adult who should be walking around talking about what their mom or dad did. Okay. And the reason why I say that is because, again, we have the choice to say, I choose to be this person. You don't have to be a product of what you've been through. You can choose to be something different. And yes, it's work. And yes, it takes discipline. It does. It takes mindfulness. It takes awareness. It takes, really listening to that voice in your head and, oh, that's not my voice. That's my mom's voice. Oh, that criticism, that's my dad. Like, I recognize that. That's not me. And really giving those voices identities so that you can say, no, I don't listen to that, or for me, one of the things that I use in my coaching as a way to manage those kind of those programs is to say, my thing about fear and trauma is I like to welcome it in, have a seat with it, have a conversation with it and say things like, well, wow, that thought is pretty hurtful. I understand that may have served me at one point in time because I felt like I needed to be defensive about that. But actually, I choose that doesn't have to be true anymore. And that doesn't have to be true for me anymore. And really, for me, yoga was something that was so powerful in me really getting in touch with what I was saying to myself. I started my Bikram yoga practice like over 10 years ago, and being in that hot room and really I was cursing. Okay, I was cursing myself. I was like, you fat bitch, you can't do, you really gotta be mindful, be honest with yourself about the way that you speak to yourself. And I was just like, oh my God, that is not nice. That is so mean. That is so cruel. And really, that's what really kind of clicked for me. I'm like, wow, I have a whole other dialogue that's happening in my head at all times. We all do. We all have a dialogue that's going in our mind. We all have the rational mind that is trying to convince us to be fearful. Okay? That's not something that ever goes away. That's something that you learn how to manage. That's something that you reprogram. That is something that through repetition, through meditation, through affirming, through positive speaking, through therapy, through steaming, that's you learn how to manage and make your consciousness bigger than your program.
Yeah, and I know, like, as soon as you said yoga, I'm like to say I'm not a yogi, but when I started partaking in yoga practice, and it was just like allowing yourself grace and allowing yourself to be in the moment, I noticed I was talking a lot of shit to myself, right? Like, I had to stick it. I had to be the best. Who does that person think they are? Like, why they do? I'm like, dang, all of this is really, I would never say it out loud.
Exactly.
But in my mind, I was beating myself up about not being good at this or making myself seem like I'm not good enough to do something. So,
yes.
Totally.
Yes.
Let me see the question.
Yes.
Oh, somebody says, does yoga help with womb health?
Absolutely.
Can I put it here? Yes, I can. There we go.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely, 100%. So, my first thing about womb health is the first thing, the most important thing that you can do for your womb health is to pay attention to the way that you treat yourself. That's first and foremost. Everything after that is secondary because, like I said, whether it's a womb issue, whether it's another type of health condition, it stems from an energetic, emotional root. There's something going on there that you have been holding on to resentment. That's another big part of my work. I work with teaching people how to practice forgiveness. Practice forgiveness for against people who have hurt them, who have abused them, who have violated them. Sometimes that's another person. Sometimes that's our own self. The practice of self-forgiveness is huge in womb health. Huge. Because it allows you to let go of resentment. Because what resentment does, and I like to give this illustration, resentment is like a kink in a water hose. And the more kinks that you have in your water hose, the less pressure and the less flow of water that comes out of that hose. But you know what happens when you start taking those kinks out of a hose? All that water starts coming through and you're getting all of the goodness that is available to you. But when you have this unforgiveness, this resentment, these grudges, and oh, my mom did this, and I went through this sexual abuse, and that's not to minimize anyone's experience about anything they've been through. It was a valid situation. If it caused you pain, then it is something that is valid for you to work through. I think so many times we try to suppress that stuff and we try to push it down. Oh, but that was so long ago. I'm over it. Oh, but that was, I'm over it. And we confuse suppression with healing. And just because you suppress it and don't talk about it doesn't mean you've healed from it. And so that's something else that I do in my coaching. I help take women through the process of unsuppressing and releasing in a healthy way. Because I also feel like it's not necessarily helpful to just, a lot of times I hear about therapies, you just go up and you bring up all your trauma and then it's like there and then it's like, okay, well, what do I do with it? You're right. Like you're just re-traumatizing yourself. There are very specific ways that you can go and bring that trauma up and then transmute it. And transmute means that you can manipulate and change it into something that becomes a blessing to you. You can turn your pain into your purpose. And I do have a lot of, because of my work with womb health, I have created a lot of different emotional healing courses that are available on the link in my bio that really help walk you through practical ways of healing. Really give you step-by-step instructions. Okay, now that we're going to do this, now write this down. Okay, now I want you to, so yeah, it's, I've had clients who have come to me when I was doing steam sessions and I was really kind of mixing coaching in with the steaming that have said to me, Megan, I feel so good. Like I've been going to therapy about this for 3 years and I have never felt this type of release that I got from you in 1 hour. And I was like, wow, that is amazing. And that just brings me so much fulfillment to be able to help people in that way. You know what I mean? Because it really affects everything about your life when you have trauma that you haven't released yet. And you might not even realize the ways that it's affecting you or realize how it's influencing you. But once you start to really let it go and let it release in a natural way and kind of give it to God and allow God to use it. I mean, this is now, especially in my work, I realize like everything that I have been through in my life, all my trauma has come full circle because now I'm helping women navigate similar situations. I might not have had the same experiences as everyone, but I think we can all relate to the underlying feelings, feeling abandoned, feeling betrayed, feeling lied to, feeling not good enough. That self-worth is a huge kind of overarching theme that I think a lot of women deal with. Just they don't feel good enough. They don't feel like they're enough for whatever reason. And so that's kind of where I like to help people really change that perspective and understand not only are you good enough and are you enough, you are divine. Okay, you have access to God within you and tap into that because that is what you were born to do. You were born to be an individualized expression of God. And I can tell you from personal experience, it feels so good waking up and going to sleep knowing that I am walking in my God-given purpose. Because I'm going to tell you right now, there's certain things that you are going to have access in life to only if it's God's will. It's not just about, oh, I want this and I want that and I want this much money and I want a husband and I want a car and this is blah, blah, blah. It's not just about that. It has to have an overlying umbrella of humility. And, you know, one of the things that I always say is, God, this is what I want, but you know what? I know it's not my way, it's your way. It's not my will, it's your will. It's not my time, but it's your time. And I'm going to surrender and I'm going to say, God, you know the desires of my heart. And I trust that you are going to bring them to me in divine timing and divine alignment with what is right for me. What is right for me is searching me out and it will find me. And so, you know, it's a completely different approach to life where, you know, I used to feel like always doing and being very busy and this is what, you know, Kevin Samuel was talking about. You go get the degree, you go get the job, you know, you go get these outward kind of status symbols and you feel like, oh, okay, well, now I've arrived and now I've had this accomplishment. So now I'm a good woman. But you don't know how to have a conversation without advocating for yourself. You don't know how to have a disagreement without cutting people off. You know, you are lacking the emotional intelligence to have a healthy relationship, not just with men, maybe with friends, maybe with family, maybe with, you know, and so it shows up in so many different ways. And so that's where, you know, I differ a lot from Kevin Samuels. I think Kevin Samuels had a very kind of one-track thing about just marriage and babies and, oh, what are you doing bringing to the table and who? And it's like, it's so much bigger than that, you know, it's so much bigger than that. It's really about your quality of life. And really, at the end of the day, no matter what you say that you want for yourself, we all want the same thing. We all want to feel loved. We all want to feel appreciated. We all want to feel safe. We all want to feel secure. And that's really it. I mean, if you break down all the things that you think you want out of life, it's because you want those things. You want inner peace. You know, you want to feel happy. You want to feel joy. You want to feel bliss. And, yeah, I think that, you know, at the end of the day, it's important to touch into the underlying emotional reasons why you want what you want for yourself. Because you have access to those emotions right here and now. And it really stems greatly from gratitude. Gratitude is a game changer. Hold on, I'm going to turn this light on real quick because I'm on the East Coast and it's getting dark out. I think it's going to rain soon. Gratitude is a game changer. For anyone right now, what you can do, I promise you, start writing down 10 things every morning that you are grateful for first thing when you wake up. Write down 5 things you're grateful for right before you go to bed. And really allow yourself to get into it. Like sometimes I'll get overwhelmed. I'm just watching my children and I'm just like, God, I just love the fact that thank you for giving me healthy children. Thank you for giving me children who all have use of their body and use of their mind. And, you know, I'm not dealing with any kind of developmental or, you know, because that could be a reality. You know, people are dealing with that. So, you know, you have to kind of, it's not to say compare yourself to other people, but take a moment to see how lucky and how blessed you are.
Right. Yeah.
How blessed you are. Yes.
Yeah. And I remember we touched on something in our pre-call, and I was so moved by it. And I was sharing it with my friends. I'm like, I've been saying this, but I just didn't know how to kind of put it together. But about energy, right? You were talking about energy and how you can't have what you want if you're filling it up with just meaningless space. You know, like for example, you know, people that are dating, for example, right? And they want this woman or they want this partner or this man. But in the meantime, they're just kind of doing what they want and just being kind of, I guess, fluid.
Settling.
Their attention. Yeah, or settling, right? So I wanted you to touch on that a bit because my friend actually, I was talking about that as being a woman. And they were like, do you think this works for men too?
Absolutely. 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 I would love to touch on it. And so this is what I was referring to when I talked about boundaries first being internal. So my approach to life is everything is on me. I am the creator of everything that I experience. And so with that approach, number one, the reason why I like that approach is because that gives me something to look forward to. It doesn't put my destiny in anyone else's hands, right? It gives me the empowerment to know that, hey, I can change this. I don't have to live like this. And so for me, it's about, everything that we manifest is about a decision we've made, okay? And so we have to make decisions with ourselves internally to say, okay, this is what I want, and I'm not accepting anything other than that. Okay? Because that's what a true decision is made out of. It's about, yes, you make the decision, but if you make a decision and then so it's like you wouldn't go into a restaurant, right? And place an order for a dish, and then they bring you something else and you're like, okay, I'll just have this. But we do it all the time in our lives. We place this order, or we kind of haphazardly place the order. We don't really place it. We pretend that we place the order. And then when something else is presenting to us, we just say, okay, I might as well have this. And that's not how it works.
We're afraid that what we want won't come.
Exactly.
We don't trust.
Exactly. We don't have faith, or because it's not coming in the time frame we want. Well, right. So we'll just say, okay, well, I'll have this for now. And then when they bring what I want, but the thing is, think about at a restaurant. If they see you eating, they're not going to bring you something else. And it's the same thing with manifestation, and it's the same thing with creating. There is a void that is always looking to be filled, right? There's always a void that's looking to be filled. The universe, God is looking to fill the void, right? And that's just the law of the universe. And so you have to be mindful of, do you actually have space for what it is that you say that you're wanting? Do you actually have the emotional capacity? Do you actually have the expectation? If you're saying that, you want to settle down and you want to manifest a husband and a family, are you a selfless person? Because it really does require that, right? It requires you to be willing to make sacrifices. It requires you to be willing to take accountability for yourself. Apologize when you're wrong. Accept and acknowledge when you're wrong first. A lot of these things, we haven't yet brought ourselves to that place yet, but we're waiting for this thing. The marriage needs that. It needs that void to come to. It needs for you to be in an energetic alignment with, okay, I am ready to work through maybe tough conversations without yelling and screaming. I am, willing to stand up for myself and say, you know what, honey, I really don't like it when you talk to me like that, or when you say that, because, blah, 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 blah. And so you have to really be in that space already in order for what you want to be able to be a good match for you. You have to be the match to what it is that you're desiring, right? So just like if you're talking about money too, because a lot of people are like, oh, I want more money. I want more money. But then when you start asking questions, well, how much money do you want? Well, I don't know. I want $1 million. Well, why do you want $1 million? So I can travel. Okay, so where are you going to go? Like, they don't have any real substance or real definition about how much money they actually need. Because a lot of people, you really don't need $1 million, right? You can live a great life without being a millionaire. Okay, like, but this is, in this world of technology and social media, there's all these people, trying to sell you this thing of this status behind being a millionaire or being an entrepreneur or being. If you choose and you are happy with being an administrative assistant somewhere, and you are investing your money into, you don't have to. There's not this one standard of what success looks like. Success looks like what you are happy doing. If you are happy waking up and going and doing what you do to serve the world every day, and you're happy coming home, then you are highly successful. Okay? Because let me tell you right now, there's a lot of people who have a lot of money who are miserable. Money does not make you happy. Money just exacerbates who you already are. And this is why you see people get a lot of money or win the lottery and they're broke again, or they're on drugs, or they're committing suicide, because money just expands who you are. And so who you are, that's the most important part. And just like, marriage, that's going to shine a light on who you are. So you want to make sure that you spend time shining the light on yourself first, and making sure that you are in a condition, in an emotional state, in a mental state where you're not going to get defensive or get triggered when the light starts to be shined on you.
Yes, I love that you said that.
Yes, God.
So Judith, she has a question about,
okay,
what do you suggest for struggling with confusion? And she has a hard time making decisions. I think that's going back to what you were saying earlier about making these decisions for yourself.
So I'd like for Judith to elaborate a little bit, like so is it a hard time making the decision, or a hard time sticking to the decision? I just want to, I want to clarify that, because I think that we can feel like we have a hard time making a decision, but it's more so that we have a hard time committing to our decisions.
Kind of goes back to the boundaries, right? Like,
yes.
We set boundaries, but we have to, one, give an action if you break the boundary, and then two, keep the boundary within ourselves, right?
Yes.
We just
yes.
go against our integrity for ourselves.
Yes.
And that starts a whole different pattern there,
Exactly.
I think a lot of us actually do. Even in the fitness realm and eating realm, we make a lot of promises to ourselves, and
yes.
set a lot of...
What happened? Where's Rashida?
Realm and eating realm, we make a lot of promises to ourselves and set a lot of decisions that we're going to make, and we just kind of let them fall by the wayside. And we absolutely do that in lots of our relationships. Let me see. I think she's
I'm
for connectivity.
Sorry, I'm back.
But I would love to know what she means by let me see.
Sorry about that.
I mean, okay.
I can hear you. I'm so sorry about that.
Great.
Sorry. I hit the wrong button. Sorry about that. I would say the overarching answer for struggling with confusion is that you need to spend time alone, quiet. You have to get to a point where you're actually taking the time to be quiet. And I'm going to be real with you. A lot of times it's not always about making a decision. It's about listening to God's direction. We try to take on so much responsibility sometimes, and we try to have so much control over things that we miss the intuitive nudges that we receive. So I would say, if you are struggling with confusion and making decisions, then ask God, please give me signs. Please show me what the right path is. Please show me what decision I need to make. Okay? If you're struggling with something, give it to God. Trust me, God knows what you desire, and God knows your path of least resistance to get there, because that's what we want to do. We want to be on the path of least resistance. We don't want to be walking uphill our whole life and fighting our whole life. You can, and it doesn't have to be minute decision. You can say, God, I just want to be happy. And you know what? Right now, I don't even know what that means for me. I don't even know what that looks like for me. But can you show me? Can you start to give me some signs about it? Can you start to give me some intuitions about what does happiness truly mean for me? And get God involved in the conversation. Because with
I love that you said that. And I know we got a mixed audience here, but I honestly feel truly like once we remove toxic things out of our body, right? A lot of things that we eat that kind of make us feel depressed, and we can't hear God.
Yes.
Because we're kind of clogged up with mucus and sugar and caffeine that always makes us want to go, that we can't sit still and actually listen to God. And it's hard to have that clarity.
Exactly.
Right? The clarity that we're trying to experience. And that's why a lot of people fast, right? So whenever you read, like, religious or not, but every religion or culture has some type of fasting.
Yes.
And it's so you can hear God. And when we're constantly, paying attention to our stomach, work and all these other things that are always constantly trying to get our attention, it can be really difficult to hear clearly. So I know there's somebody out there that's saying, I don't know if I really hear God. I don't know what that sounds like. Does that sound like me? Does that sound like my voice? Or is it some magical voice that's going to shine down? But I truly believe that, having a very clean diet will allow you to receive messages, will allow you to be able to see signs and see different things, because I feel like, God in the universe speaks through other people, speaks through messages,
speaks through television, music, all that.
Yeah, and we're always cloudy and foggy. You guys know brain fog, right? When you're cloudy, it's hard to be able to receive it.
Yes.
So
yes,
I totally agree with what you're saying.
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah, Shemai says slow down and listen to God. Thank you for the confirmation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it's great. So I know I've taken up your hour.
That's okay.
Thank you so much for.
Thank you for being patient with me. I was just saying thank you for being patient with me. In the beginning when I was trying to get it hooked up, it's okay. I've actually been recording on YouTube, so it's been fine. And I'm really grateful that we were able to kind of have this conversation. And I think that this is kind of a doorway. I would look forward to having, more conversations like this. I think that
I think we need more conversations like this.
It's a needed conversation.
It's like truth. It's truth. It's like what we really need. And sometimes, even myself, like I've been going through my journey, healing myself. Everybody's got something. I had things with my dad and my childhood and all this other stuff. And I started taking personal development courses. You ever heard of a place called Landmark? I don't know if you've heard of it, but it's kind of on the same wavelength of a not quite a Tony Robbins type of thing, but it's kind of one of those. And I found it very life-changing.
Okay.
Right? Because it talks about integrity, right? And how you expect people to, do you right, but you're not doing yourself right, Rashida. You're not doing what you say you're supposed to do. You're not honoring your word. You're not, giving. Like, how giving are you really? You want to have a lot of money, but are you giving? What are you giving? So I encourage everybody to find something that would develop them personally. I know you have coaching practice. You can tell them a little bit about that. And where to find.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you check out on Instagram, the link in my bio, it's taplink cc/yes God Wellness. I do offer coaching services. It is kind of an application process. There's kind of a discovery call to see if we're a good match for one another. And like I said, I also have a vault of different personal development and emotional healing courses of, work that I've done that has been recorded, and you can kind of go back and look at that. And so, that's really, I'm super passionate about that. I'm super passionate about really kind of helping people identify, this is what I want for myself. Okay. This is because a lot of times, what you want, but your self-worth issues are making you feel like you're confused. They're making you feel like you don't really know. They're making you feel like, on the fence. And I just recently wrote a piece about being on the fence and how this is a place where you do not want to be. You want to get off the fence, and no matter what the area is, because when you're on the fence, it's so much harder to get to your goal because you haven't chosen a side yet. And so I
say that one more time. You said you know what you want, but your self-worth tells you you can't have that.
Yes.
I feel like that's a lot of people. I feel like that's myself. I feel like I totally resonate with that, because you can have this long list of the things that you want, and you can even feel like you deserve it, but there's that little small
there's
talk
a little
here that's like, you're a little girl, you're unworthy, you don't know how to do that, how are you going to be married and all this stuff, and you've never even seen that. So
Yes, absolutely. Yes. I mean, and it's, I've actually recently kind of changed my title, whatever. I mean, my ego is gonna, our ego is our persona. Like, we need an ego, though, right? Like, that's what we're here for. We're here to, create this identity for ourselves. But I think it's always very important to keep God as the conduit through that identity. And so, one of the things that I realized through my work is that I actually consider myself a self-worth coach, because where my zone of genius is to come in and say, okay, this is what you want, and this is let's make a plan for you to get there. Let's not just allow your, and also being that accountability, because it's important to have, the thing that Tony Robbins, that you mentioned, him talks about a lot, is making a public declaration. This is what I'm doing, and it's not something to tell everybody. Sometimes you need just a safe space to share things, because sometimes you don't want to tell things before they've come to fruition yet. But you do want to make it public outside of yourself, so that you can have that accountability. Hey, I thought you said you were going to be doing this, Megan. Oh, I did say that. Okay, so let me get back on track with that. Which is kind of like me now here talking about my Godcast, because I want to make sure that I'm holding myself accountable. Because to me, in my mind, okay, there's some footage of me on the internet saying that I'm doing this thing, giving this date. So guess what? Integrity is important to me. Honesty is important to me. So now I am kind of forcing myself to be accountable to what I said I was going to do. And so be mindful of that. And yeah, I if anyone resonates with me or my work or my tone, I know I'm not for everybody. I am very blunt. I'm very direct. I have a certain style. And that's the thing. As I said, but that's important to, you don't have, just because someone is, work with people who resonate with you. Work with people who make you feel good. Okay. I am not for everyone, and everyone is not my ideal client. And even as a kind of a tidbit of entrepreneurship advice, everyone is not your ideal client. You want to niche down as much as you can, because you want your zone of genius to be what is appreciated and what you're being compensated for. So I think that's really important, whether it's a business, whether it's a job, whether it's a relationship. Make sure that you're actually feeling good and vibing with the people that you're interacting with, because everything is a transaction. All relationships involve transactions. They all involve selling ourselves. They all involve other people buying into who we are. And if you're in bad situations where the person is not bought into who you are, or you're not bought into who they are, there's a lot of people in the world. You don't have to stay there. You can make a different decision. You really can. And the most important thing is to really love yourself first. Don't look for someone else to love you to feel better about yourself. You have to love yourself first. And then you share that with someone else who hopefully is loving themselves as well.
Loving themselves as well.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes, God.
Well, thank you, Miss Megan.
You're so welcome.
For being here today.
Thank you for having me.
And I'll be saving this so that you guys can go back to her. Make sure you are following her Instagram page. She's on YouTube, so make sure you check her out.
Yes, God.
Yes, God.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Rashida. Bye, everybody.